Clements Uncensored. Thank you for listening to my podcast. A few notes about the presentation. After years of scripted talks, many of them methodically outlined, some even memorized, at least in part, I decided to drop that style and simply speak spontaneously from my heart. So that's what I do. My talks are raw and improvisational. I make them up as I go along. In addition to my World Dharma talks, I also offer at times readings from my books, Instinct for Freedom, A Future to Believe in, The Voice of Hope, and Wisdom for the World. I also offer readings of my personal notes, sometimes guided meditations, dialogues from my World Dharma public forums, interviews from radio and television, and sections from my show, Spiritually Incorrect Meets Relationship Incorrect, The Great Reckoning, and the occasional conversation with someone I find interesting. I also want to express my deep gratitude to the people who have made donations to me, either a one-time or recurring donation, either on the support page of my website, alanclements.com, or pledged a monthly amount, as little as $1, perhaps $3 or even $5 a month, through my Patreon site. If you're inspired to do so, you can support this podcast and my work by making a monthly pledge at Patreon. That's patreon.com, patreon.com/Alan Clements, and there you'll find my page. You can use a credit card or pay through PayPal, and your monthly pledge, that's what it takes, just a few minutes to set up, allows me not only to do my work, it allows me to create my art, use my voice, speak my Dharma, free of commercial consideration or advertisers. Thank you from my heart for taking the time to listen to my podcast, and thank you for your generous support. I hope you enjoy the presentation. It's a joy for me to be here. I can't live without you, Ubuntu, as they know in South Africa. A special topic this evening. It's part 2 of what I began, hi there, nice to see you, last week. Hey Lindsay, nice to see you, namaste to you. Advice to a lover, advice to a lover, advice to myself. I'm showing no distinction here to that exquisite phenomenon of communion with your beloved. And I'm not just speaking about the internalization of the beloved, the divine feminine, the divine, the divinity of beingness in its highest frequencies. What else is meditation? What else is yoga? What else is life than to choose to play in the music of the highest vibration possible? Hey Andy, nice to see you. Marsha, namaste. How to begin this? You know, I do yoga every day, pretty much. And for those of you who do yoga, like meditation, it's the embodiment of beingness. Of course, I'm not into workouts, and alignment is totally cool, but it's the energetic, the physical, the anatomical, the psychical, the source level, the existential, the pre-nuministic, whatever it is that we're embedded in right now, the co-occupation with mindful intelligence, with whatever I can feel to be the resonant intelligence of inner beingness at all the different levels and dimensions of existence, from consciousness to memory, to psychology, to emotions, to subconscious, to source, the alignment of inner beingness with intelligence, mindful intelligence. That to me is what I call inner Dharma yoga, or meditation in dynamic action. It's not balances and poses and acrobatics. That to me is just anathema to the yoga of wisdom. How many people among us will not grow old and feeble? Many young people are immobilized, and still they can actualize in many ways more intimately and better this yoga of mindful intelligence, co-occupying the beloved of inner beingness, the wakefulness of pure beauty. And just an aside here, people have asked me this week, what is the basis of what you're doing and sharing? Well, I take the position of Oscar Wilde when he often told audiences, I'm letting you in on how I think to myself. And that's really what I'm doing here. I have, obviously, for me, nothing to teach. I have a lot to share because I really believe in sitting. I really believe in the inner sittingness of just sitting with the energy of your purest sense of vibrational truth. And, the talk tonight, again, is in sequence to the 10 conditions I find of a mature relationship. And last week, we spoke intimately about high quality time. This week, I'd like to speak about communication, mindful communication, and the Van Morrison phrase, the inarticulate speech of the heart. And the confluence of these two, on the one hand, a discernible sense of intelligent choice making. I am right now using words based upon some skill that I've learned over the years to choose my words as I wish, to co-resonate with the language and tonality of these words. Now, right there, the yoga of inner beingness, I would really like to invite you as we proceed down this road tonight to be that which we seek, to breathe the oxygen that we hope to continue to breathe, to be the freedom that we hope, to be the chemistry that we hope to meet, to live in the yoga of this sense of immediacy with intimacy, with high potentiality, to live at the highest frequency possible, to meet, and I really mean this, to meet the one. And right there, pause. All of you in your life have had the encounter, the love of your life. If not, you're waiting for the love of your life. Call it the communion with the goddess, the god, the enlightened state of inner beingness. What is life about other than the communion of high frequency connection? Now, how many people I've asked that they've had experiences with past marriages and loves or lovers that just touched the most beautiful place in their spirit. Yes, it was complicated, unthinkably complicated. To heighten the sense of being with your beloved and to really choose the deepest place inside of yourself that says, I want to understand what's required, absolutely what's required to meet the one of my life. Now, I'm not a religious type or into isms, but there's a story in the time of the Buddha where the Buddha's wife, Yasodhara, somehow she had a premonition that she was to die. And she was now a nun and he was the Buddha, he was a monk. And, the opposite of ghosting that so happens among some people today. In the Buddhist tradition, at times of the text, they brought everyone together at moments of high frequency, high potency, at the moment where the premonition of death was to occur. And she spoke to the Buddha, her former husband, and said, Sir, my friend, my former lover, my teacher, I am your student, you are my student. And she spoke about the frequency of their communion over many, many, multiple lifetimes. Pause. Okay, a little bit religious. But I really do believe that you meet people in this life. Have you not met people that it's unexplainable? The beauty, the high level of frequency, the humor, the interplay of eroticism and romance and tenderness, and you have so many things in common and those few things that are so out of sync that you go, my God, I cannot believe I'm living with you, but I love you so, so much. And it's not neurotic. It's not dysfunctional. It is absolutely breathtaking. Do you know what I'm speaking about? Does anyone see that? Do they know that? I have had it recently. I've had it multiple times, but not like just before. A complete resonance with that sense of you are a soulmate from a previous lifetime. There's too much synchronicity. Well, I believe in creating that inside of oneself. And mindful communication and the inarticulate speech of the heart is a desire, an ontological desire. It's the yoga of liberation through loving. Now, Yasodhara talked to the Buddha and said, how many times I've tolerated your inability to be with me in present time present. You had other agendas, you had other desires, you had other neuroses, you had, in my interpretation, trauma-based behaviors. Have we not seen them all the time in people and ourselves that lead these beautiful beloved relationships that are soulmates into configurations of separation? But why? Why? So the first thing in mindful communication is a dedication, a commitment, an absolute breathtaking commitment to speak from the soul of your conscience and consciousness and simply include. Communication to me is the inclusion of that too. How many people, Namaste Janine, how many people live in the shadow of the beloved with a desire to, it's not quite at the level of frequency that I want. It's interfering with the difficulties that I feel that I don't want to encounter. I have my stresses, I have my compatibilities. In fact, he's incompatible, she's incompatible. But to include that too. Communication doesn't mean just shadow, it means to include, commit, absolutely, breathtakingly commit. And that too. And Yasodhara spoke to the Buddha, how many times I've included the shadow in our relationship. She spoke of hundreds of thousands of lifetimes of being together on this long journey of eternity, waking up in simultaneity, sometimes together where that communion is so breathtaking. At other times it's so complex. And I'm not an idealist here. I'm not a dreamer. I do know that there's conflict, but to include that too, so that dishonesty is the contraband to intimacy. When I was with Sun Tzu Chi way back, although I've met with her before in not so long years, but I asked her a question about what were some of the most memorable things that she remembered under detention. And she said, I remember so much because I had so much time on my hands, so to speak. And I said, well, let's be more specific. Your teacher and my teacher, the Venerable Sayadaw U Pandita, we shared the same relationship. What do you remember about his teachings to you? She says, oh, I remember everything. First and foremost, he told me, I remember him telling me to be intelligently mindful. You know, in Burma, in the early years of the revolution in 88 onward, it was decidedly a feminine-based revolution based upon the power of human conscience and courage to put other people before oneself. And they used the power of the voice, using auditory vibration of loving kindness and compassion and truth-telling to do what they could to confront the apparatus of totalitarianism, rather than the masculine, outmoded patriarchy of might is right. They used the power of the voice. And she told me that Sayadaw U Pandita told me about the power of what he called mindfully intelligent speech. He said, first and foremost, when you're speaking, when you're communicating with your lover, with anyone in the world, but primarily here, someone whom you consider to be your lover, myself. Intention. Intention is so crucial. Intention. One could have the most, benevolent intention, and you can just feel the radiance of that motivation coming from their heart. And it's as if they love you so much. They're so moved by empathy. You know, dictatorship and totalitarianism wants to remove empathy from society. But empathy and compassion are so much the citadel, the foundation of commitment. I care about you. I want to include that too. So he said to me, intention and motivation are primary. What is your intention about what you're about to share? He said, then one must consider the word. Word like music, the poetic. What is it that you want to say to the other individual? Choosing your words wisely. Right now, you're choosing to hear words, you're choosing to see words, you're choosing to feel words. I'm choosing words. I'm choosing how to intone those words with feelings. He said emotionality and tonality with the choice of words, make them alive in feeling. You can feel the vibrational frequency. You begin to play in the communication with the beloved, the aesthetics of mindful intelligence. You get to play in the poetic of emotionality. You get to play in the poetic of shared frequency. You get to see and you get to hear and you get to feel more deeply the co-resonance of being in love-making through communication. Mindful speech and the inarticulate speech of the heart. He said, then one must be extremely careful with timing. You can say the most poetic, loving, beautiful words, but if the timing isn't right, the most well-intended poetry falls on deaf ears. Sometimes you need to wait for the right moment where the commitment is just right, and I'm going to fight for this relationship from within it. I want this relationship so much. You are so important to me that I'm going to wait and be patient to tell the truth with empathy and compassion, with the finest tone and the most beautiful choices of words that are direct and truthful. But I'm going to wait for the right time. And spatiality. Think about words that are just rushed together. And how often the shadow of that speech is that with friends and other people, you keep a covert agenda. You talk more truthfully to them than you do your own partner. How many of us have done that? And we keep a secrecy and we build something up as a residue of contempt, and we don't include that because we're fearful of being in some kind of conflict. She'll leave me, or he'll leave me, or there'll be some kind of who knows what that happens. But you wait for the right time in high quality frequency and you begin to speak. You begin to speak the inexplicable. Hello, my love. I'd like to share with you something extremely beautiful. People ask me, what defines your Dharma? What defines your meditation? What defines your yoga? The beautification of relationship. The commitment is to the beautification of shared space. Two people who are soulmates dedicated to the resonance of a higher yoga will play in the dimension of shared beauty. What is shared beauty? I call it inner Dharma yoga. The ability, as I'm choosing, as you're listening, to choose words wisely. It's to choose mind states with intelligence. How many people in the world can choose the right note, the right word, the right sound, the right state of mind? Who can choose to be patient when needed? Who can choose to be in gratitude when needing to be grateful? Who can choose to be in compassion rather than contempt? Who can choose to be forgiving when upset? Who can choose to be more determined when apathetic? Who can choose to be in silence when busy in the mind? So many yogis I noticed in studio yoga are so adept at times at working through the asanas as if they're absolutely acrobatic. But how many of them can sit still by calling off the momentum of habit? I want to include this too in the communication. The inarticulate speech of the heart means essentially, I acknowledge my vulnerability, I acknowledge my foibles, I acknowledge my flaws. What I'm saying to you is built from truth with a desire to help and to elevate. I want to know you, I want to love you, I want to include that too. Advice to my lover, advice to myself. Mindfully intelligent communication at the inarticulate confluence of the heart. And the last thing she told me was the importance of not necessarily being so attached to the outcome of the communication, meaning that you did it as free as possible from a place of openness of heart and openness of mind. In Burma, when they spoke often of loving kindness and telling the truth, that often resulted in imprisonment. It often resulted in incarceration. Sometimes it even resulted in torture. He said to me, do not be attached to the outcome of what you're saying, although it be true, wise, beautiful, well-intended, at the right time, and deeply embedded in empathy and compassion. You open your hand, you do it freely. The flower doesn't ask space to be fragrant. The beautification of consciousness through a deep willingness to understand the potency and the power of making love in a conversational manner, the eroticism, the aestheticism of shared space, and treating that poetic as an act of love, as an act of romance, and creating the highest frequency possible in our communication, whether it be through our eyes, our ears, our hands, our tongues, our bodies, our hands upon each other, our minds upon each other. Whatever it is that we do that shares in that space, to take it higher and to elevate higher and higher and higher. And so from my heart, may I close tonight. May each of us dedicate ourselves to finding those individuals in life that we really do call tribe, family, inner beingness. And we're so lucky at times, if we are, to find a beloved, some true soulmate that we've known from lifetime upon lifetime. We really, really understand them, and we do all that we can to commit to including whatever it is that arises in high quality time, a dedication to the highest resonance possible, to make that individual the most important person in my life. My mom and dad married for 76 years. They went through so many different places of struggle and complexity and love. So many phases of life did they find themselves living and dying through. But when my mom was in hospice in the final weeks, it was amazing to me, our communication. The ability to be so loving, so tender, so present, so inclusive, so frail, so vulnerable, and that too. Mindful communication, and that too. Commit to high fidelity frequency. And may I encourage you, look and feel, in the absence of your soulmate, in the absence of meeting the one, increase the frequency of your sensitivity, the yoga of inner vibration. Take it higher, more sensitive, more poetic. Find that energy in yourself and wait and meet that chemistry and speak from your heart. Does she or he hear the music of your soul? And Yasadera said to the Buddha, thank you for the lifetime after lifetime of bearing witness and participating in this process of co-evolution together. Apparently they were life and lovers for so long. May it be possible among us to find that person. Call me an idealist, call me a dreamer. And may we find that resonance at the highest frequency, that we become enlightened together through this process of mindful communication at the confluence of the inarticulate speech of the heart. Advice from my lover, advice from myself. Namaste. Thank you. That has been Alan Clements Uncensored. Thank you for listening. You can find the entire list of my podcasts at alanclements.com, along with my books and upcoming events and live broadcasts. In addition, you can also book a private session with me if you wish by phone or Skype on the website. If you're a regular listener or simply feel moved to support my work, you can make a one-time donation or a recurring donation, a tax-deductible one, in any amount you feel comfortable, either on the support page of alanclements.com or a monthly pledge through my Patreon site at patreon.com/AlanClements. Thank you for listening to my podcast, and thank you for sharing word of it among your friends and on social media. Thank you from my heart. Until the next time, blaze on with fearless love.